All right, it's time for this week's main event, Mitch. I told you as we were getting ready to record tonight's show that, everyone else is doing grades 1 month into the season. A lot of other people do power rankings weekly. We're going to do power rankings monthly here in this WNBA season. And so this is going to be our first installment of the Women's Basketball Podcast's women's or WNBA power rankings for the 2025 season. I'll ask you this, Mitch, because I think the two teams off the top of my power ranking and arguably the bottom 3 to 4 are kind of obvious. And so it's that middle part of the power ranking I think that the listeners are probably most interested. So you tell me, do we want to start at the top or do you want to start at the bottom with our friend Chris K and company?
Let's start at the top.
Oh, okay. All right. I like that. So let's start at the top. You tell me, Mitch, who is your number one team in your 2025 1 month in power ranking?
It's close, but I would take the Liberty over the Lynx right now. I just think the Liberty have more talent. And I think they're, just playing at a better level and a better kind of pace right now. They did stumble against the Fever, the return of Caitlin Clark, all that good stuff. I think they're going to get back on track this week. They do have a pretty tough schedule coming up. Against the Dream and against the Mercury, and then at Seattle to start a 4-game road swing after that. So we might see the Liberty kind of stumble here. I think this is going to be a little bit of a test for them. But I like them a little bit more than the Lynx right now.
I would agree with that sentiment. I just think, to our point about bus drivers, I think the Liberty have more players on their roster who can go off any single night and can dictate the pace of play on the floor, whether that be Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquel Jones, and Natasha Cloud, for what it's worth, has looked like, albeit she did not look like it against the Indiana Fever, one of the better point guards in the sport through 1 month of the season. So yes, I would also put the Liberty at the top. I would have the Lynx second. Now this is where we have some fun. I have the Atlanta Dream third, and I'm not afraid to admit it. You said you think Alicia Gray should be getting credit for being in the conversation for MVP of the league 1 month into the season. Our friend Carl Semesco and a staff that, quite frankly, they got to the W like later than this year's rookie class. Like I think Tahina Pau probably at least had a hotel room in Atlanta prior to the crew down from Florida Gulf Coast that followed Carl Semesco after the collegiate season ended. Shout out Chelsea Lyles, who was the coach for 5 months after Carl left. I think Tahina had a hotel room before Chelsea did. And that's where I just think that, well, yes, a lot of people believe that this was going to happen, that staff would follow him at some point in time. I don't think they're getting enough credit. To our conversation earlier of Fee Collier's not getting enough credit, I don't think Carl and this staff are getting enough credit for what they have been able to do to not push that 3-point shooting agenda that so many thought would be the core principle of what their team looked like in the WNBA. They haven't pushed it, but they've almost just so seamlessly integrated into the game of traditional post players like Brianna Jones and Brittany Griner. It's been a sight to behold.
Yeah, I think like the threes are falling for them, but like you mentioned, like they haven't completely abandoned post play. Like Brianna Jones is playing well, Brittany Griner is playing well. And then at the same time, on Sunday in their win over the Mystics, they made a franchise record 18 3-pointers. Also, I just want to bring it back to our season preview where we made some predictions, and Ryan Howard is the leader in 3-pointers made right now with 36 in the WNBA.
9 in one game, WNBA record, folks.
Yeah, I think that right now, I think Carl Semesco is your front runner for Coach of the Year. Just the way that, I know Atlanta was kind of trending in the right direction at times last season, but we never considered them as like a contender or anything like that. And the way that, they've kind of revamped this roster and the way that they're playing right now, like I think he looks like the Coach of the Year at the moment. It's working. It's working well. I would agree with you. I would have them at number 3. And then I would probably, I think the standings like can be a little bit deceiving. I think I would put the Fever at number 4 over Phoenix.
I can't quit them. I hate that we're prisoners of the moment, but I would put them 4 too.
Yeah. I think now that Caitlin Clark's back, like we're going to really start to see like what this Fever team is made of. And I think that if she had not missed any time, their record would be a lot better than it currently is. That's not to knock Phoenix at all. I think they're playing really well, and they're about to start getting more healthy as well with Kalia Copper and Alyssa Thomas. And Natasha Mack all returning from injuries here over the past couple of days. So I think that would be my top 5.
Yeah, I would agree with that top 5. I think that there's a clear separation. And again, maybe if Caitlin Clark hadn't missed time, maybe the Fever are more competitive in those 3 or 4 matchups now with the Atlanta Dream. I just think they're a really bad matchup for Indiana. But I think that it's definitively those 2 teams at the top that were undefeated until this past weekend. Then it's the weird Dream Fever. They're bad matchups for each other, but they pretty much have handled everyone outside of Minnesota and New York. Then it's the Mercury, who I would give the nod over Seattle, Mitch, just because they're not fully healthy. They're younger, and I think their ceiling is higher, just like why I would put the Fever 4 is because of the ceiling. And then I would put Seattle. And even then, I still have questions about the sustainability of that team, just because it's all these veteran pieces that you know and you love, but you're like, how do they actually work together? I would almost equate it, and maybe it's just because I saw them over the weekend in Boston. It's the New York Yankees trotting out a lineup that includes Paul Goldschmidt and Cody Bellinger. I don't think we've ever made a Major League Baseball reference on this podcast, but it's literally the 2025 New York Yankees, not the 2018 NL All-Star team. The 2025 New York Yankees trotting out names from 6-7 years ago who were all-stars and saying, yeah, we're competitive. And yeah, you're competitive, but I really don't know how high your ceiling is. So that's why I would have the Storm 6th, albeit the fact that they're going to make the postseason and they have been one of the more consistent teams up to this point, even if it's not aesthetically pleasing.
See, I think I would put the Valkyries 6.
Ooh, I like that.
Just because, I mean,
wait. Think about it. What about Washington? If we're going to talk about the Valkyries, we got to talk about our
friends. I'm not ready to go there yet with the Mystics.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fine.
But the Valkyries, I mean, they just beat Seattle 76-70. And I think that they're a team, like, in terms of just like power rankings and stuff and like who's up and who's down, they've won 3 in a row. I think they're trending in the right direction. I think there's a good chance that they make it 4-0 tonight against our friends in Dallas. So I think I would put probably Golden State at number 6.
I like that.
And then I might put Vegas at number 7.
Yeah.
Just because I think a little bit like the Fever thing. I mean, there's a couple of things with the Aces going on, right? I think like the Wings, they probably need to make a move at some point and get some fresh faces on that roster and get some pieces out that don't really work, as I've talked about before. But also like the Fever, like they are dealing with a key injury to their best player, so their record maybe is not as great as it should be. And then I would go Seattle.
Yeah, I do like that thinking. So let's do that. So Valkyrie 6th, Aces 7th, because it's if we're gonna consider Indiana an incomplete because of the Caitlin Clark missed 5 games and Asia Wilson missing significant time. By the way, Asia, I know it's a concussion, but rocking the sunglasses in the suite, I'm just like, oh, okay, we know you have a concussion, but yikes, I hope it's not anything more severe than that. But no, I it's so hard for me to I don't want to say quit Las Vegas, but this idea of just writing them off completely. And certainly, Jewel Lloyd had 21 points the other night, and that's the most she's had as a member of the Aces. So maybe she's finding something. I don't know how much I believe in this backcourt combination with her and Jackie, and how do you rotate? And
yeah.
I don't know how much I believe in it, but I do believe in Becky Hammon. I love the fact that, and we talked about it last week, I loved the beef that she just basically said, I'm not going to coach effort, and we have an effort problem right now. And I refuse to believe that this talented of a roster is going to continue to have an effort problem unless the problems in that locker room are much bigger than we know.
Right. Yeah, I do. There's something that has to happen with the Aces if they really want to get back to contending for a title again. I just don't see this team as currently constructed making a run to the finals. I'm not sure if it's, getting a true legitimate center in there or if it's shuffling the backcourt up a little bit. Whether you're talking about Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, or Jewel Lloyd. I mean, in theory, like, those are 3 of the best guards in the league. But there's only one ball. And, sometimes it's not Madden franchise mode where you just kind of, all-star roster construct. It doesn't always work that way like a video game.
And it did for a couple years. That's why they won 2 titles. Not working so much this season. Okay,
Indeed.
so I think we're in consensus. So we got the top 2 teams, the Liberty and the Lynx at the top. Then we've got the weird Atlanta Dream, Indiana Fever dichotomy. Then we've got this middle ground of Phoenix, Golden State, the Las Vegas Aces, who have underperformed up to this point, but they remain having one of the highest ceilings in the league.
Mhm.
Then the Seattle Storm, aka the 2025 New York Yankees. Then I think in the next tier, it's firmly the Washington Mystics and then the Sparks. And that is our young, inconsistent. We want to believe because we like the pieces. Kelsey Plum may eventually lead the league in scoring if Nafisa Collier comes back down to earth so that Mitch makes his money. We'll get to that here in just a second. The Washington Mystics have one of the most exciting young cores, potentially the number 1 and number 2 front runners for Rookie of the Year. I think firmly that's that next tier. And I hope one of them breaks through to the middle tier at the very least.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I would say firmly Mystic Sparks right there. Yeah, both kind of similarly constructed. I mean, they're both these young teams for the most part, except you got Brittany Sykes on one, Kelsey Plum on the other, who are both playing really, really well. And then some young pieces around them. Some of them work, some of them don't. But they're both fun to watch, I think. And yeah, like you said, like we want to believe, we want you to be better, but you're just not quite there yet. So yeah, I would go, yeah, Mystic Sparks. And then kind of in the same vein, I think the Connecticut Sun are
Okay.
also in that group, but I maybe would put the Chicago Sky ahead of them.
Oh, you okay? So that's I'm in the same boat because I
Yeah.
do think sustainability in terms of the roster construction. I think the Sun go next for me in the power ranking, but I think that the Chicago Sky have Angel Reese. And as good as Marina Mabry has been at times, as much as I want to believe in the young pieces of the Connecticut Sun, I probably believe in Angel Reese more.
Yeah. I think the Sun know exactly what they are. Like as we've talked about, like the way that team is constructed, like where basically your best 2 vets are Marina Mabry and Tina Charles. I mean, Tina Charles is there to chase her records and to kind of mentor the Utes, as it were. The Anissa Morrows on that roster and the Sinai Rivers on that roster. And then Maria Mabry is just at this point, every time I open Twitter, I see a new TikTok of her and Sinai Rivers. She
Hanging
looks like
out.
she looks like she's having fun, and so shout out to that. But like I think they all know like what this season is about. Like we're not going to be all that good. So let's just have fun and let's bring these young guys along, and then we'll get a high draft pick, and then we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah. Whereas the
Where
Chicago Sky, like they know what they are and they know it's not sustainable roster construction, but they're like, whatever, we're here. So we're just going to settle for what our ceiling is, which is not all that high.
Yeah, I think this guy have some regrets. I think it was maybe not a good idea to fire your head coach that all the players liked. Number one, I think it was not a good idea to trade your lottery pick, which turned out to be Sonia Citron, who is having a great season so far. And by the way, you could use some guard depth. I know Ariel Atkins like this, shiny fancy piece, but like Sony Citron is pretty good too, and I think maybe would fit even a little bit better on that roster. So they have Angel Reese. Other than that, like there's a lot of things to just try and figure out there. The Sky and the Wings are both sort of in that same group where like you have these young stars, you can't quite figure out how to put all the pieces together around them. I think for the Sky, that's Angel Reese. Like you clearly have this player that belongs in this league and can be a building block for a really good team, but you haven't figured out yet how to put the good pieces around her. And then for the Wings, as we have discussed at length, that player is Paige Beckers. We'll see.
And I want to give you hope, Wings fans. I want to tell you that you are the 2024 first half Indiana Fever. But I cannot tell you that in good faith because even with the PE teacher last year in Indianapolis, Caitlin Clark was really running the show. And ultimately, she just found this synergy with Aaliyah Boston that I think was going to overcome all evils. And Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull were able to find their stroke in the second half of the season. And so I think unless something dramatically changes in terms of Dejanay Carrington's relationship with the head coach and availability on the floor, and Arike Ogunbowale returns to the form we saw in the first half of the 2024 season in Dallas. This is what you are for now. And it sucks for Paige Beckers, who did have a 30-piece the other night.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things like that happen with Indiana that we're just not seeing manifest in Dallas, where like number one, Paige Beckers does not really have a post that is the caliber of player that Aaliyah Boston is to create that sort of type of relationship with, right? And the other thing is that like, you know, you saw at some point last year during the Fever season, Kelsey Mitchell kind of recognize this is your team. I understand that. I am taking a step back. I will be open over here and I will be running along the arcs. And when you want to feed me the ball, I'm happy to take shots or to run the offense or whatever. But like, this is your team. You are the bus driver. And we haven't really seen Arike Ogunbowale 100% give way to that yet, I don't think. And I'm not sure if we're going to. Like, she has never been that type of player ever in her career. So we'll see. Sorry, Wings fans. Maybe you can get Lauren Betts. I don't know.
Yeah, because, you know, or maybe you get Olivia Miles and then you've got to deal with having 2 point guards again and trying to figure out with 2 ball dominant players what you're supposed to do, because Lauren Betts will go to the Chicago Sky and then they'll just have all the tall players and it's got to work, right? It's got to work.
Yeah.
We have all the tall players and so we have to win the games. Just to recap, this 1 month into the WNBA season, power ranking by the Women's Basketball Cup podcast. At the top, the New York Liberty, followed by the Minnesota Lynx, the Atlanta Dream. In the 4 spot, the Indiana Fever, rounding out our top 5, the Phoenix Mercury, the Golden State Valkyries, perhaps a little bit of a surprise. They are 6th in their first year of existence. The Las Vegas Aces, 7, the Seattle Storm, 8, the Washington Mystics, 9, the Los Angeles Sparks, 10, the Connecticut Sun, 11, Chicago Sky, 12, maybe the Sky are 11, maybe the Sun are 12, the Dallas Wings, 13th in this week's power ranking.